Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head up towards Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. We've got to get the Gothenburg catchphrase in when it comes to Gothenburg beers, of course, a bit of a tradition on the channel these days. But we're going to return to a brewery that you've seen me review many beers from before. This must be review number 25 or so that I've done from these guys, and we're having a look at the latest instalment from one of my favourite series of beers that they do. So for this one we are going to return to OO Brewing and we're having a look at the latest release from the 100 series, which is their series of single hopped IPAs. So this time we have the 100 Amarillo. As always it comes in at 6.5% ABV and this one is a New England hazy type IPA, and I think this one should be really quite nice. This is one that I was very excited for when I heard that they were releasing it. So yeah, let's go for it with this. So Amarillo has always been one of my favourite hops. It was one of the original high alpha acid hops along with Simcoe, Citra, and I guess Centennial I think was released roughly around the same time. But the thing I always loved about this hop was the big oily orangey character that it had. It just always really kind of struck a chord with me. I'm a sucker for these big oily orangey West Coast IPAs. These days of course Amarillo seems to have been kind of replaced, if you like, by Mosaic, because it's got that kind of juicier, brighter tangerine note to it, which is kind of a little bit better I guess for the New England IPAs. But if you're a sucker for the orangey IPAs like me, there's a lot of different hops you can look out for. So Amarillo of course is the original one. Mosaic is quite popular these days. There's Azaka, there's Sabro, which is more recent on the market. There's Mandarina Bavaria from Germany. There's also Pacifica and Waiti, and I think there's another one from New Zealand as well, if I remember rightly. But yeah, there's some really great orangey leaning hops out there, so keep an eye out for those ones if that's what you're interested in. But this 100 series is great for kind of beer education, if you like, because it teaches you about the aroma and the flavour profile of the hops. This is the third beer that we've had from this one. Early on in the year they released the 100 Citra, more recently they did the 100 Idaho 7, and now they've got this one here. So they release one from the 100 series every couple of months, and they've also got the 50/50 series as well, which is their series of kind of dual hopped IPAs. And the one that we have for this month, November 2020, is Citra and Equinaut, if I remember rightly. But yeah, they release one of those every month, so we'll be getting the 11th one. It'll be my 11th 50/50 review this month, which is pretty damn cool. But yeah, this is one of these two series of beers are ones that I really enjoy from OO Brewing, and I would highly recommend that you check these out if you are interested in learning about all the different hops there, and you can get those usually on the first of the month every month through Systembolaget here in Sweden. But yeah, like I said, this one was released for November of 2020 as part of the Lokal Småskaligt. So yeah, really looking forward to this one. I'm going to tell you right now that I probably will enjoy this beer because I love the hop, and this is my first single hopped New England IPA with Amarillo, so that also makes it quite a special occasion for me as well. So yeah, very much looking forward to this one, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So let's see how we get on. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from OO Brewing before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about OO Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So as I've mentioned to you already, OO Brewing are based in Gothenburg, Göteborg on the west coast of Sweden, and the company was founded back in 2011 by Olaf and Ole Andersson, who are childhood friends, and for many years they were also avid home brewers as well. But the pair have always had a huge interest in beers, and Ole was apparently heavily involved in the Gothenburg beer scene since pre-drinking age, and he was the original head brewer at Stigbergets Brewery, and this is where a lot of the OO beers were originally produced. And he of course was the creator of the amazing haze the GBG Beer Week beer for 2016, and of course the Narangi at OO. But while Ola is doing the brewing, Olaf manages the business side of things. I believe he's permanently based in Gothenburg these days, and apparently they just say that they just like making beers that they want to drink themselves. But in April of 2017, this company kind of gathered a little bit more steam because Ole left Steve Berriot's brewery and invested his time fully in OO Brewing, and the company invested in their own brewery in Hisingen, which is close to the Tingstead Bridge in the city, and it's equipped with a 2,000 litre brewing system, which means they have the capacity to brew up to 500,000 litres of beer per year. In the first year in the new brewery, they produced around 100,000 litres, and they're basically planning to expand up to capacity over the next few years, and in 2019 they apparently brewed around 300,000 litres of beer. But as of November 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced around 70 different kinds of beer, and I would highly recommend that you check out some of the things that these guys are releasing. Probably my favourite beers that I've had from them, the Muscles and the Evergreen, were lovely West Coast IPAs. I wish they would bring those back actually, those are awesome. But of course you've got the classic Narangi. They released the double Narangi recently as well, which was a really, really good beer. I want to say that Charismatico, probably Charismatico is the best double IPA that I've had from these guys in recent times, but they're also very good at the classic styles of beer as well. They've got some really nice pils in there, the Ecta pils, the Pacific pils and all of these kind of things. They've got some really, really nice lager beers in there as well. So all round I would say that these guys are a very, very capable brewery. They've also got the Long Boil barley wine and the Arctos Imperial Stout that they release for the winter every year as well, and I would recommend that you check those out. I reviewed those way back in the day. That must have been about 2017 or so that I reviewed those beers, but I would highly recommend that you check those ones out, because those are very, very nice. But yeah, they also have the 100 series that I've told you about, and also the 50/50 series, and those are released very, very regularly through Systembolaget as well. But yeah, definitely one of the Swedish breweries that you want to check out. These guys, well, Ole Anderson was the one who really kicked off the whole kind of hazy New England IPA series in Sweden, of course. So yeah, he's the kind of godfather, I guess, in Sweden of the New England IPAs. So yeah, definitely check these guys out if you're interested in Swedish beer. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about OO Brewing for the moment. I would love to have these guys on the channel for one of the Meet the Brewery segments. So the next time I make it up to Gothenburg, I am going to make sure that I film a good few Meet the Brewery segments and do a few interviews and things like that. That's something that is definitely on the cards. So you can look forward to that at some point in the future for sure. But yeah, if you want to learn more about OO Brewing, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer itself then. So as is always the case with the 100 series, this one just has the kind of plain coloured label. Every different hop seems to have its own kind of colour code, if you like, and fittingly Amarillo has that. The Amarillo one is coded with a nice kind of dark rich orange, but you can see there is the kind of data thing that you get on the back of the beers. OO of course stands for Ole and Olaf because it's their brewery. But yeah, 6.5% New England IPA, this one, as I said, the latest instalment of the 100 series after Citra and Idaho 7, and fingers crossed this turns out to be a very nice beer. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, for this month, November 2020, they released this beer, the 100 Amarillo. They also released the 50/50 Citra Equinaut, and there was also the Scarlet Rye IPA as well, which I'm very curious about. I've never had a rye IPA from OO Brewing before, so I think that one will be very, very interesting. I've had a couple of black IPAs, I think, from OO Brewing over the years as well, but it would be cool to see it'd be cool to see the Muscles and the Evergreen return, but I'd like to see them do like a 100 New England and a 100 West Coast IPA. If they did a black IPA, a 100 black IPA would also be interesting as well. That would be cool if they did like a triple release every month, or the 50/50 as well. That could be interesting. Release a 6-pack with, you know, the 100, a 100 and a 50/50 each month, with the West Coast, New England and the black IPA. That would be really interesting. But yeah, something maybe for them to think about in the future, but who knows. What they're doing just now is very good, so we won't put too much pressure on them, of course, especially during the whole COVID-19 situation. But yeah, as you can see and as you would expect, this beer has poured a lovely kind of bright, this one's a little bit more of a kind of rich yellow, to be honest with you. This one's like a kind of very rich kind of mango juice. It's not the haziest of New Englands that you're going to come across. I don't think this is the haziest beer that I've had from OO Brewing in the 6.5% range either. So yeah, this one does look as if it's a little bit less hazy than some of the other ones, but maybe there's just a little bit of sediment in the can. We'll need to see. We'll get the rest of the can in a little bit. I think I've got about 2/3 of the can in at the moment. But yeah, as you can see, lovely kind of quite rich yellow colour, this one. If I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see there is a good degree of haze to this beer. We've got a solid half finger of a kind of, this beer, it does have a little bit of froth to it, but the bubbles for me are quite big in this one. But it certainly looks the part of a New England IPA, so nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance. It's pretty much what you would expect from a New England hazy IPA, but like I said, not the haziest of ones that I've had from OO Brewing before. And I'm going to say straight away, you can smell that lovely orangey character from the Amarillo coming out there. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on with this one. Very curious about this beer. Ooh, yeah. It's such a nostalgia trip for me, this one. But at the same time, the Amarillo's coming out slightly differently in this New England IPA than it would normally in the West Coasters, and of course that's due to the difference in the malt base. But yeah, you've got that lovely, big, oily, orangey thing coming out of this, and it comes across as a little bit more juicy, so now I can understand the behaviour that I've talked about with Simcoe in recent times. So yeah, let's focus on the malt base first, and then we'll talk about the hop a little bit later. So straight away with this beer you get that lovely, smooth, white bready base to this one. I actually find this beer to be a little bit more kind of bready compared to some of the other OO ones that I've had. It's got that lovely soft kind of white bready note to it. It's a little bit more almost old school, like the Narangi was back in the day. I don't know if Narangi, I can't remember if Narangi does have Amarillo in it, come to think of it, or if it was Mosaic or whatever. But yeah, this one's got a lovely soft white bready base to it. You definitely get some of the smoothness from the oats in there, and you get a little bit of a smooth wheaty character to this one. You do get a little bit of bitiness from the wheat, in fairness, as well, but I would say that this beer, in terms of its malt base, it really leans towards that white bready, that soft white bready note, and a little bit of the kind of oaty, creamy character as well. But yeah, there's a wee touch of that kind of butter candy, brown sugary sort of thing that's creeping into the New England IPAs in Sweden these days. But yeah, I really like that about this one, I have to say. This one for me really leans towards that more old school kind of bready end of the spectrum. A lot of the kind of higher alcohol double IPAs and stuff that I've been having from OO recently have had that more kind of butter candy, sweet brown sugar thing in them, which I do like as well, but it's quite nice to have a bit of variety and have something that's a little bit more old school and bready, and that's how the malt base really strikes me in this one. Just a little bit of that almost butter candy type flavour. Aroma, sorry, coming out of this one. But yeah, let's focus on the hops now then. So there is a little touch of earthiness to this one, I would say, but you've got a good little bit of floral aromaticity to the beer. It does have a little bit, it's really aromatic rather than being spicy or anything like that. And you've got some really nice kind of, you have got some very, very nice grassy esters coming out of this beer as well. I really like how this one goes together. So yeah, the green side of the beer for me is really nice, quite aromatic, a little bit grassy. That's exactly what you want. In terms of the fruity side of the beer though, it is pretty much just a big straight up oily orange for me. It's really got it's got quite a bit of zest to it as well, but the thing that really comes across with this, I don't think there's any other fruits coming out of it, to be honest. You might get some hints of a few little tropical notes out of this beer, but I would say with this one, it really has the just a nice oily orangey character to it. But the thing that you can really see with this is that it comes across a lot more juicy in the New England IPA. If you had this in a West Coaster, it would be really kind of oily and it would still have the same zestiness and stuff and that same big oily character. But with this one, it definitely has that big kind of just smooth, juicy note to it. And I've talked about this with Simcoe in other reviews, that when you put Simcoe in the West Coast IPA, it comes across as really oily, but then if you put it in the New England IPA, it's very smooth and almost creamy and juicy. You can see the same sort of behaviour in this one with Amarillo, so I guess we can put that down to being a trait of the New England malt base. It's the way that the malt base interacts with the hops, and this is the thing, is you've got so many different relationships in these beers between different things and different ingredients that it can be really, really interesting. So yeah, the aroma profile of this beer, it's a little bit nostalgic for me because, like I say, I've not had Amarillo on its own for quite a wee while, but it's just a beautiful beautiful beer, this one, in terms of its aroma. So yeah, take a little bit of time to enjoy that before you get stuck into it, but we're going to have a taste of this one now and just see how we get on. I think this is going to be a pretty damn awesome beer. So yeah, this is the 100 Amarillo, a 6.5% New England Hazy IPA, the latest release from the 100 series at OO Brewing in Gothenburg here in Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål. Oh yeah, that is pretty nice actually. It strikes me as being very, very oily, this one. And again, I think that is one of the traits of the Amarillo hop. Yeah, I do like how this one goes together. Certainly do. But I was expecting to like this beer. I will be straight up about that. I did know that I probably would enjoy this beer. But there you can see the head now is a lot more kind of foamy and stuff, and you can see now that we've put the last of the beer in, there is a little bit of more kind of haze to this one for sure. So yeah, let's take a second sip of that and just see. Oh yeah, that is nice. I'm going to say straight away, one of the other things I'm noticing about this beer is that it really comes up. It's got a lot more kind of creaminess and stuff to it in the aroma than I was thinking. Then it's got a lot more creaminess in the flavour than the aroma would have you believe, and it does have a little bit of that kind of candied thing that I was talking about as well. So I really like how that side of the beer goes together in this one. This is quite it's quite interesting in that sense. It's got a little bit of spiciness to it as well, which I wasn't picking up so much in the aroma. So yeah. So yeah, I'm just going to say thumbs up with this one already, but as I said, I was a little bit biased with this beer. So yeah, for me, this one is really interesting. So straight away with this beer, you get that lovely white bready base just blanket in the middle of your tongue. The base for me comes across as, it does have a little bit of a kind of grainy element to it, which is quite interesting. But if you go towards the back third of your palate, you can feel that breadiness. There is a bit of that soft white breadiness that I was picking up in the aroma, but the breadiness really does thicken up a little bit on the back third of your palate. You can feel there is a bit of that kind of more bitey, wheaty note at the very back of the palate, but as you come further forward, it really does kind of smoothen out a little bit. And then you do... and then it just kind of thins out as you go into the middle third of your palate, and that's when you get more of the softer kind of almost... I wouldn't call the bread crisp in this one, but it does have it's got quite a soft white bready note to it. I do wonder from this beer if there is a little bit of Pilsner malt in this, and I've always wondered with these, do they change the malt base a little bit? Do they change the malt base a little bit to suit the different hops? And I would guess that they do, because the thing that I'm noticing about this beer is it does have that real kind of crisp, it does have a little bit of that kind of crisp, astringenty sort of thing, and the thing that it makes me think of is their ectopils that they do, because when OO do their Pilsner beers, I've always found them like really dry. Like they seem to really love a big dry kind of thing on the back end of the Pilsner, and I'm pretty sure just going from that, I noticed the same trait there. It could be, and from just thinking about it, it could be two things. It could be a mixed culture yeast they're using, so maybe there is a little bit of lager yeast or a little bit of Pilsner yeast mixed in with the ale yeast that they'd be using for this, or it could be like a crossbreed or whatever. I'm not an expert on microbiology. My friend Grant would be able to tell you a lot about that, but it could just be that they are using a little bit of Pilsner malt in this one, and that's giving you a little bit of that kind of dryness there in the back of the palate. You will see that if you've tried the ectopils and you try this one, I can definitely feel a little bit of the same kind of dryness that you get out of that beer in this, and that's particularly, it's almost on the border between the middle third of your palate and the back third of your palate for this one, so I suspect there's a bit of Pilsner malt in this. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, the thing in the middle of the palate that you'll notice, you've got that soft white bready note, you've got the nice oaty creaminess in there, and the oaty notes, the oaty creaminess in this beer is considerably more prominent than you would expect compared to the aroma. In the very, very centre of your palate, you do get a little touch of that butter candy Werther's Original type thing out of it. But yeah, I do like that about this beer. This one, the malt base for me is a little bit more bitey and dry in comparison to some of the other OO beers that we've had in the past, but it does actually have a little bit more creaminess to it as well compared to other ones that I've had recently. So this is an interesting thing. As I say, I think they're tweaking the malt base depending on what hop they're using. So yeah, this is a little bit different, I think. But I do suspect a bit of Pilsner malt in this one. So on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward along the side of the palate, the earthiness kind of fades away, then you get a more floral aromatic note on the front corners of the palate, then round the very front curve of the tongue, the beer is just a little bit lighter and more grassy in my mind, but the grassiness does have a good little bit of zesty quality to it, which is quite interesting. So yeah, fruity side of this beer, it's got a lot of zest to it. I mean, this is one of the interesting things for me. I think when I've had Amarillo before, it showed the same oily characters, but the zest that comes off of the Amarillo in this, I think, is quite nice. It's almost got the same level of zest as like Centennial does, which is quite interesting. But yeah, behind that front curve of the palate, as always, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And the thing that's interesting about this beer is that when you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, you do almost get a little bit of a kind of really strong, dark, grapefruity type flavour, but then as you move further forward, it's the orange and a very strong, citrusy, zesty orange that really comes out. But on that front part of your front third of your tongue, it really is more kind of oily, I would say. So I really like how that goes together in this beer. Yeah, the orangey notes you get out of this are lovely. It's that big oily orangey thing. It's really interesting. I've never noticed the kind of zestiness of the Amarillo as well, and I don't know if that's a property it displays when it's in the New Englands rather than the West Coasters. I think maybe the sweeter side of the West Coasters kind of rounds it off a little bit more, but yeah, you really get a lot of zestiness and a lot of the kind of darker flavours out of this one, which is quite interesting. So on the very front tip of the palate, it's quite oily and sweet, the orange, but then yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate, it really has an almost more kind of grapefruity note to it, which is very, very interesting. So yeah, I really like how this goes together. And one of the things that's great about this 100 series, they're only using this hop, and you'll get a lot of different characters out of these because hops behave very differently depending on when you add them in the boil. If you add them earlier in the boil, that's going to give you more of a kind of bittering quality. So that's why you're seeing the nice big aromatic qualities of the hops on the side here. But if you add them later in the boil, like within the last half hour or so, that's when you get the more kind of flavour and aroma kind of component out of them. So you're really seeing the big bitter side of Amarillo in this one, and you're also seeing the kind of fruity side of it as well. If I remember rightly, Amarillo has about 10, 11, 12% alpha acid it can be between. They vary, of course, depending on the individual crops, but yeah, usually it's about 10, 11, 12% alpha acid, the Amarillo, and I think it's derived from the Cascade originally as well. I'm sure it's got some relationship to the Cascade, and that maybe explains a little bit of the grapefruity character that this beer has if it's descended from Cascade, of course. But yeah, there is definitely a little bit of a kind of dark grapefruity note in this one, but then yeah, very, very, you really see the big zesty qualities from Amarillo in this beer as well. So I really like how this one goes together. Gets a big thumbs up from me, to be honest with you. I like what this beer has to offer. It's quite a nice big zesty IPA, this one. It was not what I expected at all, to be honest with you. And as I say, I would love to see OO Brewing do a 100 West Coast series as well, actually. I would love to see them do that, because I think it would be interesting for them to release the West Coast and the New England at the same time, because these hops really do behave very differently in different styles of beer. Even the 100 Black would be interesting as well. You know, that would be an awesome 3-pack to have every month to teach you about these different hops and how they behave. But yeah, this beer is very, very nice, and it's interesting to learn about the spicy character that this beer does gradually get more spicy, I think, the further you go into the aftertaste. But it's really nice to learn about the bittering qualities from Amarillo in this one to get an idea of the more zesty qualities, because I always used to kind of associate Amarillo with just a big oily orange sweet kind of character, but here you see another completely different side to it. This is why I love the 100 series, and I think I've told you about this in some of the other from some of the other reviews that we've done. This series for me is one of my favourites to review every month. It's really educational to learn about the different hops. That's why I recommend it to you guys to try as well. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I think we've covered the flavour profile enough with this beer. Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm getting more of the oily character and the sweetness. I think, yeah, as this beer develops, you get a bit more of the sweetness out of it. I think the darker flavours build out of it the kind of further you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, the mouthfeel of this beer then, again, this is quite a mid-bodied beer. Carbonation is quite smooth. This is one of the more oily New England IPAs that I can remember having, at least from the 6.5% range from OO Brewing. But yeah, one of the more oily ones I think that I've had. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I think this one might be a bit more. I think this might be about 40ish, maybe even 50 IBUs. It feels a little bit more bitter, especially in the aftertaste, compared to some of the other ones we've had. But yeah, it does come across quite nicely in that sense. So yeah, lovely. The green side of the beer for me, that you get that lovely big kind of floral bitter note there, but it does develop a bit of a spiciness the further you go into the aftertaste. So I think about maybe 40ish, maybe even 50 IBUs. Malt base, like I say, there is a bit of dryness, a bit of a pilsner malty dryness to it. Nice kind of smooth white bready base, and just a little touch of sweetness in the middle of the palate, but the sweetness is minimal. And like I say, the fruity character has some real dark, zesty kind of qualities to it, but you do get some of the more orangey and sweeter parts of the orange coming out earlier on in the flavour with this beer. But yeah, this one for me, really, as I said, very, very educational, and definitely nice to have a single hop beer of one of my favourite hops. It's so nostalgic for me, and I've probably spent a bit too much time. This is probably a longer review, but yeah, I really enjoyed reviewing this one. I love this hop, Amarillo, and it's nice to see it get a little bit of attention again. I have noticed that a few more breweries are starting to use it again, and the same thing happened with Simcoe. Simcoe disappeared when Galaxy appeared. Amarillo took a back seat when Mosaic appeared, so hopefully Amarillo starts to get a little bit more attention again. But there's so many good hops out there these days, I guess it's difficult for breweries to kind of rotate them or whatever. It's hop contracts, it's a very difficult thing. But yeah, this has been an awesome beer to review, and I've really enjoyed this one, so I hope that you guys have enjoyed my take on this one. So yeah, let's leave it at that. This one was the 100 Amarillo. 6.5% New England IPA, single hop with Amarillo from OO Brewing in Gothenburg. Really nice to review this. I always enjoy this series, the 50/50s and the 100s every month from OO Brewing, so I highly recommend that you guys check them out as well. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from OO Brewing. As I said, we will return to these guys very soon with the 50/50 Citra Equinaut and also the Scarlet Rye IPA. Very curious about that, and you will see more beers from these guys over the coming months and things like that. But check out this brewery, one of the Swedish breweries that I would always recommend. But I thank you again for watching my reviews. Check out my social media, check out OO Brewing, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Slange, skull, cheers. The 100 Amarillo, 6.5% New England IPA, single hop with Amarillo from OO Brewing in Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. Slange, skull, cheers.